So welcome, good afternoon and good evening. I don't think we have any participants that are still in the morning session. And welcome to today's sessions on bridging the nutrient gap, and a special warm welcome to our participants online. My name is Diane Bosch and I'm a food and nutrition security specialist advisor at Wageningen Center for Development Innovation. And we are part of Wageningen University and Research, and I will be the chair for this session. Now, the integration of agriculture and water, sanitation and energy sectors can initiate systemic change, ignoring improving food and nutrition security and strengthening livelihoods of marginalized households and communities. But of course, what is the best approach for bridging the nutrient gap? During this session, SNV and Helen Keller Intl will explore the power of multi-sector integrated programming for improved diets, increasing micronutrient intake, taking a food system lens and approach. Our three speakers will cover strategies and implementation across three topics: integrated nutrition and agriculture programming, the food environment and social and behavioral change communication, and nutrition governance. And we then will open the floor for our three panelists, who will reflect on the presented evidences, its relevance to their work, and offer insights for further enhancing resilience for nutrition. And we are closing the sessions with questions from the audience here in the room, but also online if we have some for that. But before I hand over to the first speaker, I want to remind you to keep your telephone on silent so that we are not being interrupted by pings and all kinds of sounds. And now I would like to invite Tom van Mourik for Helen Keller Intl for the first presentation about integrated nutrition and agriculture programming. Tom, here's the pointer. 12 minutes.
Thank you, Diane. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom van Mourik. I'm the Global Advisor Food Systems for Helen Keller International. And I'm based in Dakar, Senegal. I'm standing in for my colleague, Kofi Landry Kouadjou, who unfortunately could not make this presentation. At Helen Keller International, we envision a world where no one is deprived of the opportunity to live a healthy life and reach their true potential. Of course, in this, nutrition and integrated nutrition and agriculture programming is an integral part of our work. So what is integrated nutrition and agriculture programming? I would define it as multi-sectoral approach to agriculture, women's empowerment, and other domains that create a favorable environment for improved nutrition. So what are the pathways for diversified and healthy diets and nutrition resulting from the INAP approach? The diagram that I'm about to show you is adapted from the IFPRI and SPRING documents on pathways from agriculture to improved nutrition. So in the blue boxes, these represent stages along the pathway to nutrition. So for agriculture, we start with natural resources such as water and land. The pathways start with sustainable food production that can lead to agricultural income, food availability in the household, and via sales, food availability in the markets. The secondary agricultural income pathway can result, can result in improved food purchases in the market, as well as other expenditures, of which some can lead to improved nutrition, which we will see later. So food storage and processing can further improve food availability in the market and access to diversified foods in the household. This in turn can lead to diversified healthy diets. Improved dietary diversity and dietary intake. And eventually, we hope that this will lead to improved nutrition outcomes. As you can see, these other expenditures, other sectors like healthcare, water and sanitation, education and protection can also contribute to improved nutrition. How can I get this out of the... Yeah. And I want to use this to... I don't know why this is stuck here.
Because I don't think that works. Moet je even klikken? Nee,
I don't know why.
Yeah, you can
Okay, yeah, I got it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really annoying.
Let me try.
Sorry about that. So there are a number of entry points and activities that SMV and Helen Keller implement to achieve improved nutrition from agriculture and value chains. These are represented in the green boxes. So the first set of interventions deal with diversified agricultural production, local market development, and small and medium enterprise development along the food supply chain. The second set of interventions try to empower women who are key actors in agriculture and value chains and who we need to accompany to reach their potential as these actors and contribute to their own and their families' well-being, nutrition, and economic empowerment. And then finally, there are multi-sectoral linkages trying to bring together different sectors for improved agriculture and nutrition. Yeah. Oh, I think yeah. So for agricultural production diversification, the first entry point, we need to take a systems lens to make sure we identify and target appropriate bottlenecks and opportunities in the food supply chain. Then, to achieve sustainable production of plant and animal source foods at different levels, like for smallholders, but also in the value chain, we should select crops and livestock and aquatic foods based on identified nutrient gaps and promote local traditional crops and foods through access to planting materials. Another important aspect is increasing access to agricultural inputs, such as seeds, irrigation infrastructure, knowledge, and financial services. Finally, we need to promote adoption of good, nutrition-sensitive, and climate-smart agricultural practices. So the second entry point is women's empowerment. And to achieve this, this is important to achieve improved diets and nutrition outcomes. For instance, gender roles influence household decision-making on crop production, sales, and consumption. Helen Keller and SMV propose a number of activities to empower women. First, we facilitate women's access to knowledge, inputs, financial services, and technologies, such as agricultural equipment. Second, we engage communities and couples in raising awareness on gender roles and inequality and challenge these and negotiate positive changes. Finally, we promote shared responsibility and improved household decision-making by and with women. And this can lead to improvements to allocation of land, labor, and income to favor women, food security, and nutrition. Another result is more equitable sharing of the workload within the household, for instance, by men adopting non-traditional tasks and improving childcare. Finally, couples can decide to purchase and share nutrient-dense foods for a more balanced diet. Then for the third and last entry points for integrated nutrition and agriculture programming, we'd like to highlight multi-sectoral collaboration and linkages. When implementing integrated agriculture and nutrition projects and programs, we need flexibility in implementation and engage with communities to prioritize, plan, and implement while gradually increasing complexity over time. We need to be very conscious of the multiple and sometimes competing roles of water supply for agriculture, drinking water, hygiene, and sanitation. We also need to work closely with the health system to screen for and identify malnutrition and refer for treatment where necessary. And for the extremely poor and vulnerable households, we need social safety nets and support for access to food. Finally, for some groups, such as women and youth, negotiating access to land, demonstrations, and community plots can unlock their potential. So now I'd like to briefly present a case of a project that we implemented at Helen Keller from 2013 to 2016. The project CHANGE stands for Creating Homestead Agriculture for Nutrition and Gender Equity. And this is a real example of such an integrated project. So this 3-year project aimed to enhance the nutritional status of women, and the 4 main pillars of this project were production of nutritious and to some extent commercial crops, production of poultry and eggs, mostly for home consumption, and women's empowerment and the promotion of good nutrition and wash practices through social behavior change communication. In addition, we built community agents' capacity to deliver on these 4 pillars. We informed communication strategies for household decision-making based on formative research. We promoted production of nutrient-rich plant and animal source food to respond to nutrient gaps and economic opportunities. And we used multiple channels to promote nutrition and hygiene, for instance, by counseling, home visits, community events, and mass media. So what were the results? The results were very positive. This was a 4-country project, but I'm going to present just for Côte d'Ivoire, where we had particularly good results. The improved and diversified production resulted in a reduction in household food insecurity and an increase in women's dietary diversity as well as income. There were also significant improvements in wash practices. One important lesson was that the right evidence and communication of results can lead to policy changes. The government of Côte d'Ivoire adopted the integrated agriculture and nutrition approach into their national multi-sectoral nutrition strategy and also oriented funding towards a follow-on project. So based on some lessons learned and feedback from participants, follow-on projects invested more in economic empowerment, irrigation infrastructure, so for instance the construction of boreholes and solar-powered pumps, improved market access and transport, and value addition for processing. So I think that ends my part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Compliments to be in time. Thank you very much. Our next presentation is by Joseph Were. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, from SNV, and who is joining us virtually. And he will speak about social and behavior change communication and food environment pathways.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Were Joseph, Project Manager, SNV, based here in Uganda, East Africa. Presenting pathways for enabling food environment for health diet. Just to give you a background, food environment refers to the physical, economical, political, social, cultural context in which consumers engage with the food systems to make their decisions about acquiring, preparing, and consuming the food. Now, in the food environment, it is influenced by the social, economic, and social, cultural, and economic parameters within which the households live. And under here we have drivers of social behavior change interventions, desirability of the food, the local food markets, advertisements, and market information, which make farmers and the households make decisions on the type of the food to consume. All this also has informative parameters upon which they also are controlled, like the quality of the household consume, the local market dynamics, the social behavior and communication strategies, and the formative studies. The formative studies provide drivers of behavior, the local context and the practices, the market access assessments, perceptions of the nutritional values, nutrient and the food gaps within the intended households. Now, all these are aimed at guiding the households or the food choices they need to make, and also sometimes the dietary intake they're supposed to make. And at the end of the day, all this helps in improving the nutritional outcomes at household level and globally. Just give you the context of the food environment analysis, market assessment, and formative research. The formative research is made to understand nutritional gap, the local context, the culture, the food security, and the drivers of the local choices and the barriers to these changes, intended changes. Then participate approaches with the community to learn local context, local resources, local solutions, and to come up with your actions within their community or your intervention aimed at addressing the gap of malnutrition. Yes. Then the context and the challenges. Here, increasing market reliance of the social of the rural populations for food purchases for their consumption. Most of their households, both rural and urban, rely on purchases of the food they consume. Then also verification of the availability of the processed foods. Most of the food some of the households consume are processed, and most of the food they vary from plant proteins to animal proteins, and also sometimes things like eggs are sometimes are bought by the households. Then there's a growing peri-urban market need which need to be addressed to serve also the bottom pyramid of the consumers. Social behavior change communication interventions, the triggering, like as a project, really triggering, cause emotion awareness about the households and responses, and also causes and look at the consequences and how best can the malnutrition issues be addressed at household level. This was aimed at creating motivation in positive behavior at household level, and also creating positive aspirations. Now, the community community context-based planning for the change was done by the households, and also this also enabled to address the norms, the community, accountability, and also for monitoring. They also work with a wide range of actors to support this. These actors may be government partners, religious leaders, and also the teachers, and also institutions like schools, as well as individual household, that we go intra-household dynamics. Then also using the broad range of communication platform channels and tools for social change and behavior communications to address some of these. For example, we're using a number of approaches like radio talk shows or radio print media, drama groups at the community level, all of them are aimed at addressing that. Then also, after that, they come up with actions, intervention, which are specific to address gap, and this be done repeatedly because behavior change doesn't happen overnight. It has to be over and over. Communities being sensitized to change gradually. Then the model household approach, whereby you look at the household having all the basics of like clean compound, pit latrine, good hygiene practices, growing most of the foods they grow at household level, and also really like small animals at household level to minimize on the burden of buying, because most of them don't have regular income, they're not salary, and so the better they can produce most of this food by themselves, the more safer for them. Then the quality food products, under quality food products, with the limited budgets most of these households have, they also need to have value for their money. And also the poor household, for example, can pay more if the food they are paying for is nutritious, is of high value, and has a good nutritional and health outcomes. They can be paying more than if it doesn't have those qualities. There's also just preferences. Some households prefer different foodstuffs, same as they be providing the same nutrients. So we need to also address that. Then the convenience in preparation and consumption, ready to eat foods. Like for example, the household have limited time for preparing foods. Like for example, here I can give an example. We have beans. Beans are very nutritious, but most households they don't want to prepare it because of it takes a lot of fuel, and fuel is expensive. Addressing concerns about food safety, microbiological contamination, pesticides, and conservation chemicals within the foods. This is a very key issue need to be addressed. Then orient the small micro enterprise to consider the nutritional value, desirability of the food, and drivers of food choices in food processing and the marketing. We have regulations to regulate micro small enterprises. Like for example, but sometimes some of those contaminations are not fully controlled, and in the long run they may have effect. There's on the local market environment also influence on food environment. There's increased availability of health, diverse, and nutritious foods in local markets, both for rural and urban, through production, homesteads, and commercially. There's also increased access to markets and proximity of this market points. As I said, earlier, most households consume the food they consume like 80%, they buy it from a market. So the more close these markets are, the more easy for them to easily access the market and buy the foods. Then informal markets are the main suppliers for the poor households, bring the food closer to their doorstep at limited cost increase. Thus, fastest their functioning of delivery of quality nutritional value. Then the portion and the packaging sizes also matters. Sometimes most households don't have a lot of income to buy big size the foods, but if their packaging is small based on their purchasing power and their weights, it can be better for them to access the food based on their purchasing power, their income level, income streams. Now, I can share with you a case study of a project called Sustainable Nutrition for All, which was implemented in Uganda and Zambia some time back. This project was aimed at improving nutritional outcomes with increase in diversity and agro-diversity, women in productive age, and also take into consideration of the market, accessibility, gender, and the worst consideration, because nutrition can't go hand in hand. So the nutrition and agriculture project was sought to empower the communities with knowledge and skills to make healthier choices regarding their nutrition, hygiene, and production practices in a sustainable manner. The project had 4 pillars or objectives. One of them was the community mobilization for nutrition, another one on social behavior, communication approaches, other was on governance, and other one about nutrition sensitive agriculture. The community was triggered for better emotional aspiration to change their foods for the success of their consumers. Now, the triggering tool we used was a brick model. Under the brick model, we had 2 sets of brick. One brick is given all the ingredients required to make a brick, and then another brick is the one who doesn't have enough ingredients. Then at the end of the day, the brick which had all the nutrients came up as a good brick and could be used for construction. Then the one which never had all the ingredients came up as fake. It could even break at 50 like it is. So it was if you are days of life, your child will end up being very bright, because the brain will develop very well, very hard working, very strong, and also in terms of performance, either academically or non-academically, physically, will be stronger because they are from development of the child at that stage. So we used to call it triggering for brain development. Now, there we study.
Sorry, Joseph. Sorry, Joseph. Joseph, can you hear me? I'm sorry, your line is breaking up.
Okay.
So you
the internet.
Yes.
So are you hearing me now?
Now it's fine.
Yes. Now the child was fed very well from the time the mother conceived the 9 months, and also breastfed well for the 2 years. Ended up at school performing very well. Then after school was able to study, get a good job, and because he was exposed, was able to get a good husband, who was also a doctor. Both of them combined their efforts. Both of them became very successful and able to support their parents, both sides, the mother, the wife, and also the husband. So when we share such stories with the community feels they need also to success, they don't want also to failure. So they are motivated to positive change. So if I can quote from one of the beneficiaries, who said that the triggering session united our community and motivated us to make necessary changes. Now, in the triggering process, after the triggering, each committee comes up with the gaps, the challenges, as far as nutrition is concerned in their community. Then they look at solutions which can work to improve on that with respective communities. Then after that, they come up with leaders. So in this case, these leaders are called the nutrition action groups, called them the NAGs. And each NAG starts to follow up a number of few households regularly to make sure that those actions agreed at the community level, at that particular community, they are implemented at the household level, and they visit households frequently, free of charge, basically they are volunteers. Then after like 6 months, they sit down again, they review to see how they have progressed. Maybe if there are new actions coming up, then they implement those actions until the results are realized. Now, the project under this social behavior change communication strategy, we had interpersonal communication skills approaches. This basically was done by NACs, nutrition action groups, who were moving household to household to ensure that whatever was happening on was being implemented at the household level. Then in that process, also the NACs convey some learning aids to the households. When they go there, they show them, this, we did this, and if you do like this, you do like this. Some kind of coaching and mentoring households, one on one. Then also we use the number of approaches like the drama committee, drama groups at community level, every gatherings. Then also we had nutritional clubs at schools, the young children, so they also educated into how to do that when they go back to the households, also support their parents to implement. They also had community dialogues. This dialogue would connect at the community level, then later they are aired out on radios, like on radios for other communities to listen and also learn. Then also the mass media, rural radio, print media, and other approaches. Now, at the end of the day, the following key behaviors we realized: one, there was animal diversity using the 5-finger model. The 5-finger was 5-finger, each 5-finger, the slogan was each 5-finger for brain development. 5-finger was basically categorized the food groups into 5 for ease of the community members, since most of them are illiterate, to understand, conceptualize, and also to be preaching it every day. Like, for example, if a child is eating, just as they have the parents, this carbohydrates, animal proteins, plant proteins, vegetables, and this fruits. So in every day they eat, they must have all the 5 groups. If they don't have it, they tell the parents, you don't want me to be like the case study of Sephirosa. You want to be like the other brick, which was bad, so that it didn't become successful. So the parent is motivated to make sure that every time that child is going to eat, it has all the key food groups on the
Sorry,
menu.
Joseph, can you wrap up, please? Joseph, sorry, can you wrap up?
Yes, then also there was increase. Okay, yes. Then also there was, okay, sorry. Then also we did all year nutritional availability, nutritional calendar, so that they know when to produce food, when the food is scarce, and they plan for buying. Then also facilitated market linkage studies where they can access some of these foods. Then also another key behavior was increased agrobiodiversity, especially for those micronutrient foods which are lacking much, like iron, vitamin A, and zinc, so that they can also have them. Then also there was change into household dynamics, like sharing decisions, decision making at household level for all the people in the household, and also agreeing what to grow, and also allocation of food and division of labor.
Sorry, Joseph, time is up.
Hygiene practices.
Joseph?
Then at the end of the day, there was a 2 year, a 2 to 3-fold increase in farm diversity compared. This was a design study compared to the study.
Okay, Joseph.
An increase.
Joseph, sorry, but we have to move on. I think we have to cut you down, please. Quick, one quick sentence.
Increase women diversity from 22 to 70 in Zambia and from 21 to 97 in Uganda. There also was increase in that diversity for children from 55 to 85 in Zambia and from 37 to 97 in Uganda. So all in all, the power of social behavior communication was able to help us to deliver results timely using a collective and contextualized approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I thought it has been a challenge. So now we will come to our last speaker, which is Priyanka Basnet, and she's also from SRV, and she will speak about pathways for strengthening multi-sectoral coordination.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Priyanka, and I'm the Nutrition and Gender Advisor at SNV Laos. And SNV is a global development partner driven by a vision of a better world. We strengthen capacities and catalyze partnerships in the countries we are rooted in. And by doing so, we aim to transform the agri-food, energy, and water systems to enable sustainable and more equitable lives for all. So I'm going to be presenting on nutrition governance. A lot of what we have talked about prior, it's only going to be successful, sustainable, and scalable if there is an enabling policy environment. And it's recognized also in this morning's session, we talked about this, that in order to achieve nutrition security, we need multi-sectoral efforts. So this is the pathway that we as SNV and HKI have been working on to influence. So a lot of countries have these multi-sectoral nutrition policies or plan of actions, which because of especially the Sun countries actually, so these need to be translated from the national level all the way to the ward level. So how we do that is by making sure that, okay, the pointer doesn't work. Never mind. So we need to make sure that these policies are integrated across all the levels, both vertically and horizontally. It doesn't. Okay.
Where
Yeah.
do you want to go?
I can go.
Yeah, you press on this one.
Okay. So we want to make sure that across, from the national to the ward level, we're integrating these policies. And where we work is mainly at the lowest level of government. So they're the ones who are actually implementing these policies to these communities. So where SNV HKI works is facilitating this process, this interaction between the ward and the community so that they're able to contextualize their practices based on the needs of the community. And eventually, based on these few good practices that are in the nutrition policy, if done well, these will be translated into good practices in the community and the individual level, which eventually result in the desired nutrition outcomes. And also where we work is building capacity, so building capacity of technical staff who are implementing, but also these multi-sectoral coordination platforms that exist in these different levels. And then we work on advocacy at the subnational level, and then also feeding back to the national level through the support of other INGOs and development partners based on our experiences on the ground. So in terms of capacity, as I mentioned before, so we support these multi-sectoral coordination mechanisms at the subnational level, but based on the needs assessment that we've done. And while also strengthening these platforms, we need to, in parallel, build the capacities of these technical staff, the frontline workers who are working there. Another thing that we've actively been doing is disseminating these national policies all the way down to the ward level, not just to the heads of departments, but also the technical staff who are also implementing these programs. And in terms of building individual capacities, we are equipping leaders with planning and financial management skills, as well as technical skills for frontline workers. A gap that we've seen is that nutrition has been seen as a health agenda, and to make sure that it's an agenda of all the sectors and not just the health, we've realized that we need to also provide basic nutrition knowledge to all the sectors. And then making sure that these sectors are able to report, if it's the ward level, to the district, or district to the provincial, on their nutrition-related activities and outcomes, so that there's engagement between levels as well in terms of what is happening in the ground and how they can also improve that implementation. And another thing that we've done is either creating NGO coordination platforms or joining existing ones to create a common understanding of the support needs, the intervention gaps, so we're not duplicating our approaches, so that we bring a cohesive support to the government committees. And I've already mentioned before, but what we work in is facilitating the linkages between the subnational levels so that we can encourage adaptive management, and then also providing tools and approaches to the implementers at the ward level so that they're able to have these meaningful interaction with the communities and bring that towards their planning. And at the village level, we work with village-based action plans so that the village can set their targets and they can monitor regularly to be able to reach those nutrition outcomes. And at the sector level, at the ward and district level, we've been advocating for decentralized budget and making sure that nutrition activities are incorporated into their sectoral planning. Also bringing these evidences from the ground to then advocate for certain nutrition activities depending on which district you're working in or ward level. And then feeding back these implementation experiences to the central level through these joint advocacy platforms, which can be like INGO networks or Sun CSA. So I'm going to quickly talk about our project in Laos. It's the Enhancing Nutrition Upland Farming Families project, which is based in northern Laos. It's a nutrition-sensitive project. We work on WASH, nutrition behavior change, agriculture production of nutrient-dense foods, and governance. This project, all of these activities are actually guided by the Lao Plan of Action on Nutrition. So initially, we started by building the capacity of district government staff, so technical staff, to be able to provide services in the ground, doing the behavior change communication, and also facilitating and following up on the action plan of the villages. And then later we realized that this was seen as an enough intervention, but this is actually guided by the nutrition plan of action. It's a common nutrition agenda that all of these sectors that we were working with, that it was part of their mandate. And what we realized is that we actually need to work with these district nutrition committees, which weren't that functional at the time. So before we started working with the district nutrition committees, we did an assessment. So we were working on a tool called Nutrition Governance Index, which was started by Tufts University. And they're looking at the quality of nutrition governance. It looks at 6 thematic areas on roles, colleagues, coordination, finance, capacity, and support. So far we've done 3 rounds of surveys. Here I'll present the results from the 2 rounds. So when we first did the survey, we found out that only 67% of the nutrition committee members at the sub-national level were aware of the nutrition strategy. And only 23% felt they had sufficient funds to be able to implement their nutrition activities. And majority felt that there was collaboration and coordination within department, but not so much across sectors and departments. And almost 40% of these nutrition committee members felt that they were not adequately trained for their roles. So that meant, based on those results, we decided to do a set of interventions. One was disseminating the plan of action across the different levels, all the way down to the district. And we made sure we used the appropriate channel. So we actually worked with the National Center of Nutrition to disseminate, because it was important that the government was disseminating this agenda and not SNV. And then we also have worked with the Center of Nutrition to develop the nutrition basics training package, so that all the sectors get basic knowledge in terms of what is nutrition and how their sectors influence that. And we work on supporting sectors to be able to plan and report on the NPAN activities. And that spider graph is just showing that in between the first year and second year, we saw improvements in 4 areas. One was on knowing about their roles on nutrition activities, and the second one was on improved nutrition sharing across sectors, also improved collaboration, and still very low, but there was a higher perception that there was more funding towards, resources were being allocated towards nutrition activities. So this is for one district. Obviously, this changes in different districts, and based on those, we adapt our interventions as well. So in the past 2 years in the Enough project, we've improved dietary diversity of children from 40% to 62%. That is the end of my presentation. I think I did it on time. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. Very nicely on time. Also, Tom and Joseph, thank you very much for your very interesting and inspiring presentations. So we quickly go on to our panel discussion, and I would like to invite our panelists to come and sit on the very high platform in this room. And so Mercy, Dehab, and Marijke, if you could join us, please.
Project for Bopinc, based in Ethiopia. Then we have Mercy Mwende, Director of Sweet and Dry, based in Kenya. And last is Marijke, Graaf and and she's the Senior Policy Advisor for Nutrition Security at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in the Netherlands. So welcome. We got a little bit of a questions from the audience online, but we first go to some of the reflection that we have on, am I hearable? On the presentations. So first question, Mercy, if you please. As private sector company, how do you see your contribution in making nutritious foods both more affordable and more desirable with the aim of enabling healthy food choices?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name has been said, it's Mercy Mwende from Sweet and Dried. We are a company based in the rural areas of Kenya, where we process dried fruits, dried vegetables, and we use them for formulating porridge flour that is nutritious. And what we see as our contribution as a company is a lot of companies that are doing fortified nutritious foods are based in the urban areas. And even accessibility of the same is in the urban sector, the supermarkets and the like. For us, what we are doing is we are working with micro enterprises, currently standing at around 300 youth and women who have small shops, and they're able to stock the porridge flour to reach the base of the pyramid consumers. So our contribution is to make sure that these foods, the porridges are available at the last mile consumer to access the foods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we will move on to the next question for Dehab. Can you talk to us a bit about your experience empowering women in agriculture and agribusinesses and the impact that it has on the ground?
Okay, thank you. As mentioned, my name is Dehab Mehari, and for the couple of past years, I've been working on the two-scale program, and two-scale is a program working on the nutrition and food security in around 10 African countries, and it's been implemented by Bopinc, SNV, and IFDC. So one of the core principles of two-scale is to work with these medium and small micro enterprises who have an inclusive business idea. So the major criteria of assessing this inclusive business idea is, does this have an opportunity to include and benefit women? That is one criteria, actually, in addition to supporting smallholder farmers and having a nutritious product that can be accessible to BOP, low-income consumers. So, as I said, it's one core criteria that we see an inclusive business idea that supports women and youth also. So, doing with that, in every intervention that we have, we zoom in to see how we can include and benefit women in all implementations that we do. So usually in all activities, we try to not only include women in activities, but also prepare like a women-only interventions in all sectors, because we come to know that women could have a different interest. Even when you facilitate a training, you know, the time that women have free time to attend trainings is different than the men partners. So taking that into consideration, we always plan to have a women-only interventions. And even the interesting thing that practically that what we saw on the ground, especially when we work with this poultry sector, you know, though they are not the owners, many of the workers in the poultry sector, like more than 80% are women working on the ground on the poultry house. So facilitating, whenever we used to facilitate a training, usually the owners of the business would come, and thus, those are the men. But we planned a training just for the employees working on the ground. And it was really interesting that we saw a shift even in the mentality of the business owners. They said empowering women and having a really technical knowledge on what they've been doing, it is changing the impact. They saw it, the impact, not only the productivity, but also the interest that they show and the dedication that they show towards their carrying out their activities. So nowadays, it's not us who push to have women-focused implementation, but also the business owners, because it has an impact in their profitability. So that kind of requests are even coming from the ground, that we need to empower women who are really delivering the activities on the ground. So that's really interesting process that we've been experiencing.
Thank you very much. I have a follow-up question. How do the women perceive this kind of empowerment? What do the women themselves find of it?
Sorry?
The women themselves, how do they react to it?
Yes. Interestingly, as I said, when we organize even women-only events, they share experiences. And adding up to what happened with this poultry sector, what they shared was, especially when you do work with the broilers, the chicken meat farm, the chickens, they drink a lot of water. So many of our poultry houses, they are not that modern. So these women, usually they carry water now and then. So it was really a lot of work for the women, and also there is even a waste of water. So that came up during the discussion that we have with the women. They said this is one thing that can really be changed. So based on that discussion, we even introduced automatic water drinker that could be invested one time, but it could really save the energy of women, their motivation, and as I also said, waste of water. So that also came because of all this women engagement that we have in the program.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Let's take a whole different perspective, and we go to Marijke. As donor, you're providing funding for different actors to engage in food systems to improve nutrition outcomes. From your perspective, what are your key takeaways from the 3 presentations that we just heard?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I think, yeah.
Thank you. It was very inspiring to hear these 3 examples and very concrete examples. So that's definitely a key takeaway, to see that enthusiasm and also very concrete all the pathways towards nutrition outcomes. And I think as a donor, we are very much looking at those nutrition outcomes. And it was, I think, from all 3 of them very clear that there is this need of a multi-sectoral approach. And also the complexity. So it's not just making sure that there is orientation on better diets, but there's a whole a chain of activities and a whole bunch of actors that have to be involved. So I was also very pleased to see how there is this collaboration between development actors like SNV, Helen Keller Intl, Bopinc came across. But also that they mention how they relate to the civil society or the local organizations, so the CSOs, so getting involved the people directly. But then there's also the link with private sector actors, because they indeed play an important role to make sure that these better, more diverse foods in a food-safe way really reach these producers and consumers. And also a reference to the scaling up nutrition movement, so also making use of that type of actors that are at country level. So I do see the complexity, and it's also very encouraging to see how the different examples have been able to link to these different actors. Also trying to get the involvement of the authorities and the government to take on their role. What I would really like to see is next to these inclusive multi-sector nutrition programs, that gradually nutrition also will become part of the general agri-food system programs, so that nutrition is not seen as a separate channel of funding, separate type of programs, but that nutrition is really considered to be an outcome of agri-food related programs, and also rural development integrated programs. So in that sense, I think there's still some work to be done, but this has been really encouraging.
Thank you very much. I could not agree more. So then we actually go back to Mercy, and I think that is also a little bit connecting to what Marijke said. What do you see as a role as to ensure the availability and accessibility of healthy foods choices, as a private company, of course, in view of the proliferation of unhealthy food and snacks in even the most remote rural and urban slum areas?
Thank you once again. Just what the speaker said, you realize that when you're in the rural areas, there are some crops that are looked at as main crop, especially in our country and in Africa. For example, coffee and tea and milk, those ones are considered as main crops. So as women, we don't own the coffee plantations, we don't own the tea. But when you look at smaller short-term crops like the African indigenous vegetables, the women are actually allowed to farm them. And that's what we have taken advantage of, because it's a short-term crop. It takes only 1 month, and it's ready for selling. So our role as a company, as Sweet and Dried, is to make sure that we train more women on farming of the African indigenous crops and the orphan crops. The orphan crops is the tubers, the cassava and the yam, because we use them for fortification. And when the women do the farming, we are able to buy directly from them. So we create market for those farmers. At the moment, we have around 1,000 farmers, women farmers that we are working with. And when we create the market for these farmers, we also involve them as the sellers of the finished product. So still at the base of the pyramid, we are able to work with them as those that are not doing farming, then they are selling our product is called Charm Booster. Charm means in Kenya, it means come we eat. So we call it Charm Booster porridge. So they are able to, the women are able to sell the products in the community. So our model is we go to the groups. We have a lot of groups where the women are able to sell the porridge flour to the fellow women. So that becomes as a source of income for them and direct access of the food, because once a woman buys the porridge flour, you're sure that they're going to make it for the family. And from there, we encourage organic growth. So you'll find that the products are being sold where actually we buy the raw materials. And that way now we see that as a company, we are able to not only create market for the farmers, we are able to contribute on creating a source of income for the women and the youth, and also now promote nutrition at the base level. Thank you.
Okay, very nice. Thank you very much, Mercy. If we can go back to Dehab, so as an NGO and partner in projects that aims to bring more nutritious food to the bottom of the pyramid, both rural and urban, how do you see your role of social and behavior change communication interventions?
Okay, thank you. I just want to start with what Mercy said, because what Mercy just said is the strategy that we follow. That's what has been carried out and implemented on the ground. So generally when we see these days, you know, it's this nutrition is getting kind of expensive. But again, on the contrary, there are still many consumers spending on unhealthy foods. So there is this still dilemma, and yeah, from practical point, what we see is nutrition doesn't sell. So we really need an intervention that can change consumers' behavior, so that we need an intervention that can lead like a social behavior communication. So in TwoScale, what we do is to promote this kind of intervention, we start usually by doing consumer insights. Whenever there is a partnership with, like as I said, whenever there is a medium and small enterprise that has an inclusive agenda, we see the product that they are envisioning to the market. So we go down and do consumer insights. It's based on that consumer insights that we develop a marketing strategy. Because we know this BOP, low-income consumers, is not a market as usual. It needs a different kind of intervention. So, as I said, we do this insight, then we develop a strategy. We usually implement this BMC, Business Model Canvas tools, to come up with specific interventions. So it's based on that we try to see how we can make a product like accessible. We say the 4 A's. Is it accessible? Is it affordable? Is it acceptable with the culture and norm of the community that we are engaged in? Is there also an awareness regarding that nutritious food? So based on these 4 A's, we try to collaborate with our business champions, and then we try to implement core in 4 areas. Like we try to see, do we need an appropriate different product that can change and interact with the community, with the consumer that we are targeting? Or because if there is a gap, we need to develop a different kind of product. Or we need to also work on the branding. It should have like it should fulfill the inspiration of the consumer that we are targeting. So that also we see how should the branding and should be done with the specific product that we are talking about. And also we see like as Mercy was explaining, how can we make it accessible to the last mile? Because that's one of the unique character of these low-income consumers. They don't need to travel and far to get their products. It should be accessible at affordable price. So we also see that one as a last mile distribution, and then specifically like the communication part, like the market activation. We intensively work on market activations because this segment, like even the urban and rural low-income BOP consumers, they need to trust the communication, the marketing message that we send. So we also develop that in with the business, with the micro and small businesses, so that it could really be accepted by the community that we are targeting. So these are the strategies that we are implementing so that we can come up with the appropriate communication strategy targeting these low-income consumers so that it could be accepted, as I said, as a nutritious food within the community without going like outline without being not an outline product in the market. So that's how we've been trying to communicate.
Okay, thank you very much, Dehab. Very interesting, very comprehensive as well. But then again, we're going back to Marijke, and there's a lovely examples from the 2 ladies from Ethiopia and Kenya. So how important is that we incorporate locally led inclusive developments into local and national policies? Because they do a lot of these developments. And how do we ensure that those policies are operationalized and implemented? Big questions.
Yeah. No, I think first and foremost, I think why it is so important to have these locally led initiatives is for the sustainability. Because from the donor community we could support different activities and pilots and studies and things like that. But in order to do the replicability, in order to go to scale, there needs to be, it really has to be based on the local situation. So there needs to be a buy-in from the local authorities and an engagement of all these different sectors. And indeed, what Diane was saying, these are really very great examples where you see how they take into consideration the position of the women, and even that influences the choice of the crops. I think that's a very, very great example of how you really take into consideration the local situation, so that is really locally led. And also, I think the perspective of consumers is key. So we don't see people as being malnourished, but we see consumers in front of us and with their desires and with their aspirations. And so I think that is really a starting point for all the other actors to see how could they relate to this, and how could they also not only address malnutrition but also make a business, see really the value chains, and also see the production, the income and the consumption. And how can we make sure that these then great examples are maybe going to scale? I think there's also a bit the role of further work on these national nutrition plans. I think it was mentioned several times that it's also a framework. So it's a framework where you kind of relate to when you work on nutrition, and at the same time, I think it was also addressed in the several presentations, that from the different work that you do, you also try to contribute towards these national action plans and try to strengthen them, try to keep the actors accountable, try to support with monitoring tools. So I think that's all where the different actors also can support this national responsible government to further elaborate that, and to make sure that great examples from local level are going to be enabled to be maintained and to go to scale and to be replicated elsewhere.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I heard that I'm not always hearable. So thank you very much. I think we would like to open the floor for questions. So if you have a question here in the room, you can go to the microphone, introduce yourself. I was thinking maybe Tom and Priyanka, you can join the panel if there are any questions for you specifically targeted. So you can join us, please. I'm not sure if Joseph is still online. Yeah, okay. So while people are gathering, we have 20 people online, so I first want to give them the floor as well. And there's a question for Mercy, and that's about how do you ensure your quality, which is a big issue for many, many issues.
Yeah, thank you. When it comes to quality, even when you're providing foods for the base of the pyramid consumers, quality is very important because of ensuring that you adhere to the food safety procedures. And for us, what we have done is we have gone through the training together with our team members on food safety, and we are now in the process of actually getting a FSSC 22000 to make sure that whatever we are processing meets the requirements and as per the law and the governing bodies. And not only that, but to make sure that our consumers are able to access foods that are not only nutritious, but they are good and safe for them. So continuous training all the way from the farmers. We train our farmers on good agricultural practices. We train them on post-harvest handling, and we also train continuous training for our team members at the production. Maybe I didn't mention that at our factory, we are a bit biased on youth and women, so we purely work with 80% women as a way of also giving them a source of income. We have around 40. We're including the part-time and full-time staff. So we train them on continuous basis. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we have a lady at the microphone. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. I'm Cornelia Speich from the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute, and my question would be addressed to Priyanka. If you can tell us a bit more on the composition and also the institutionalization of the district nutrition committees.
So in the Lao, I will speak on the Lao context. So in the Lao context, the nutrition committees, based on the Nutrition Plan of Action, it's Ministry of Agriculture, it's Ministry of Health. Water sits under the Ministry of Health, so, and then there's mass organizations like Lao Youth Union, Lao Women's Union. There's also the education sector, then public works and transport. There's also the organization that deals with safety net, social protection. Yeah, those are like the main actors that compose the nutrition committees. And so within the strategy, these committees actually have to exist in all provinces and district level. And there's guidelines in terms of how they need to operate and how they how they need to report and what are the actions that they need to take. But it's still at its infancy stage, I would say. So in certain provinces or districts, it's more functional. And this is where INGOs are actually providing support to make sure that these coordination platforms are able to function. Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we go back to online and then we come back to the sir there. This one, I think it's for Marijke. What will it take to make agriculture sector accountable for nutrition outcomes? Can you share your thoughts about that, Marijke?
I think that's a very, very good question and very close to my heart. Now, I think what could be helpful is next to these schemes that you have already presented, so where you see very clearly the relation between production, income, producers, consumers, so more this, I think, food system approach. I think that's a very, very helpful framework. And in addition, what I do think is helpful that we are, as a nutrition community, more able to have a very helpful, easy to apply indicators or metrics that could also facilitate not to have a quick response or very early stage let them know what do the different interventions in the agro-food system do for nutrition. So in that sense, I think there are a lot of good indicators already. So maybe like I think there was some presented about the dietary diversity. So I think that would be very, very much helpful. And I think together we need to promote these, that they are also used and taken more serious when we talk about the SDG monitoring mechanism. So in that sense, I would really make a plea that we together show more easily, and not only that we show the results, but that we also maybe present the tools and invite people that are not directly nutritionists, show them that it can be applied, and it can be very interesting to learn more about what do all these activities about increasing production, diversification of production, increasing income, women empowerment, what do they in the end do for nutrition improvement?
Thank you very much, Marijke. The gentleman over there, please, take your opportunity.
Good afternoon. I'm Lengri Sagbo from Nigeria, consulting for Particle for Humanity, which is a company developing vitamin A, a stable form of vitamin A for food fortification. My question for sustainability, I saw some project in Uganda and all that. Is there any way of tracking government commitment in terms of funding, to ensure that, we, even when the project, the donors, the grant is actually exhausted, how, is there a way of, supporting all those interventions, especially the SBCC activities, which is, when it comes to SBCC, is a continuous thing. So how do we ensure that, government, for instance, the government of Uganda, are actually supporting those activities, for sustainability? Thank you.
To whom is the question? Or,
I think it was for Joseph, but I think it's also implemented in Kenya, right? There's
Yeah.
the same project. So it's a general comment and a question. Thank you.
Anybody here that wants to answer the question? Tom, you want to take a turn?
Yes, thank you for that question. Well, I can only speak for the change project that Helen Keller implemented, but I think one of the ways in which you can track and make governments accountable for sort of nutrition, multi-sectoral nutrition programming is make sure that there are really beautiful, developed policies are actually put into practice. And where are they really put into practice, and where do you get multi-sectoral integration? You get that, as Priyanka explained, I think mostly at the provincial and the district and ward level. One of the things I think you can do is advocate, show the potential benefits in terms of malnutrition, and malnutrition also has economical costs. And with that, really try to increase investment in nutrition-sensitive and nutrition-specific, I would say, action plans at these lower levels. So really, I think what Priyanka presented really is starting to make the government aware of what is needed on the ground and put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir, you're happy with the answer? I cannot see you. Yeah? Okay, you're welcome. And then I have a question for Joseph, and then we go to the lady over there. Yeah, I'm looking into the light, so I'm not seeing you completely clearly. Sorry about that. Joseph, are you there? I'm looking at Monique. Is Joseph online? Joseph, are you there? Otherwise, we go on with the question from the lady. Yes, please go ahead. Your name and to whom you direct the question.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Azucena Dayanghirang. I'm the Assistant Secretary and the Executive Director of the National Nutrition Council Philippines. I'd like to address the question to Ms. Priyanka. Glad to hear about the NGI thing, the Nutrition Governance Index. We know for a fact that malnutrition is caused by interplay of multi-factors, and then a multi-sectoral approach is a key intervention to have nutrition outcomes. I'd like to ask from you regarding the NPAN. In particular, is it strategic? And if it is strategic, how were you able to come up with an operational plan? Because we know for a fact that no one size fits all to all the provinces and cities in our country. So second is, how were you able to entice national committee members at the national level to really be engaged and provide for financial support as per their agencies, in particular the Department of Agriculture, wherein we know for a fact that they should be involved in food security initiatives. And how were you able to, translate this and disseminate this to the local level? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So the Nutrition Plan of Action is actually part of the Lao government's strategy. So there's already sets of interventions and actions that the Lao government expects different sectors to take on down to the district level. So in that sense, what we were doing is that this existing strategy and action plan was not even the awareness of it at the subnational, especially at the district level, was very low. So what we were doing is that there's this strategy with very clear actions. How do we make sure that that information goes down to the district? So we were doing the very basic in terms of making sure that information was actually going down to the district. And in terms of budget allocation, what we're doing a lot is around advocating with these district nutrition committees. So working with the sectors that, hey, these activities are actually part of the nutrition agenda, which is also part of the agriculture agenda. So how can we ensure that these activities can be implemented in these few these few villages in your district? So it was kind of a conversation that we're having with them, and when they do their sectoral planning, that they incorporate these nutrition activities into their sectoral planning. That way, also the budget. So it's not when they request for the budget for the next year, to ensure that these nutrition activities are put into their sectoral plan and the request goes out with the nutrition activities. So it's a very slow process and it takes time, but it's basically getting the different sectors to understand that the nutrition agenda is also part of their sector's agenda. Yes.
Thank you very much, Priyanka. I think we have one more question, and I have an online question, and I think they're for Mercy and Dehab. The question is, are women and small, medium enterprises engaged with the food system? In your, I think, in your examples.
Thank you. Yeah, one thing that you realize with the micro enterprises, especially in our African society, they are run by women, and they also need little investment, actually very little investment to start off. The good thing is when you're dealing with food, porridge, for example, my case being the porridge flour, most households will be able to buy what they can consume in less than 3 days. So what we did for us is, the first thing is we reduced the package size for the porridge flour. So we usually pack it in 400 grams, which goes for less than $1. So most women enterprises are able to buy 12 pieces compared to if we had done 1 kg of the same porridge flour. So because our minimum for order actually for the micro enterprises is just 12 pieces to start off. So when you have 12 pieces of 400 grams, that can serve from our experience, most households around 4 or 5 people, they can consume that in 3 days. So they'll come back and buy some more. So the issue is first to look at the package size for the women enterprises and also the price. The gap that we have found, or myself have found on the ground, is because setting up a processing factory is capital intensive. And number 2, scalability, what she talked about, to go to the next level where you need to reach to produce more, also needs quite some investment. And the third point, usually is some places are so remote that you cannot deliver 100 pieces of the porridge. So you need them to order in bulk, and that becomes a challenge. And that is where we have a gap, because some places are so remote that you cannot send just 10 pieces or 100 pieces. You need them to order in gaps. And it's an issue that still we are seeing how we can sort it as, not only as a company. And this is where I think the question you asked about collaboration, this is where we are looking at even possibility of collaborating even with development partners, and probably they can train the women to form the groups and the circles and order together as a team, where as a company it becomes a bit tough to go and train now on business skills to the women, and how wide should they form circles. So I think that's where we need the kind of collaboration for the micro enterprises, so that they are able to order and be able to have the products when they need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dehab, have you a very short, because we have sort of no time anymore, but very short response to the question?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my short answer is yes, women are really involved in the food system, in all, like in the activities, because when we talk about the production, the process, and even the consumption, the market side, we try to involve women. Also, at the end, when we see the outcome of this system, like women have high impact on securing family nutrition. So that's also a very, very high point. But also along the process, they can be employed and can be an income-generating activity along the food system. But also while letting them know this, the good agriculture practice and also the conservation systems, they can also really contribute to environment protection. So all the outcomes can also be achieved.
Great, thank you very much, Dehab. Can I have a big applause for Tom, Dehab, Mercy, Marijke, and Priyanka, and also Joseph online. So that ends the session for this afternoon, and I would like to ask Monique to come and close the session for us. Or she's going to the microphone.
On? Yeah? Yes, it's on. Great. No, thank you so much, Diana, for a beautiful moderation of this session. And I want to thank everybody who is on the table, Priyanka, Marijke, oh dear, Mercy, Dehab, Tom and Joseph online for really presenting here the case of integrated multi-sectoral collaboration and programming that can strongly enhance the impact on nutrition outcomes. And I also, before I summarize my conclusions, my big takeaways, I would like to thank everybody who's been working on the backside, behind the scenes, to get this all together. Because we have been really working not only with the projects that have been presented here, but we have brought all our projects on the table and as such been joining into formulating what we've been presenting here. For me, I think now I need to change hands. I think what stands out is indeed the knowing that we need to collaborate between private sector and NGOs and government and all the other stakeholders to together improve the food environment with more accessible and affordable nutritious food that are acceptable to meet the consumer desires and interest, and that we need a bit of help from social and behavior change communication to improve the nutrition outcomes and transform the food systems, giving better outcomes, both for farmers and their incomes, for women and youth working in processing and marketing these foods, and increasing affordability for both rural and urban poor and for their optimal diets. And bottom-up approaches through strengthened connectivity and inclusiveness, women empowerment and community engagement are key to achieve the necessary contextualization to address the felt needs of the population. I'll stop here. Thank you very, very much.